So senior prep is a role that requires clear leadership, a strong work ethic and creativity. And knowing Kat as I do, she epitomises all these things and more. Ask any member of the prep team and they'll sing you her praises, especially when it comes to her art, her dedication and her true love of college. She's easily approachable, incredibly friendly, but serious when she needs to be, and I've no doubt that she would build upon everything that Jazz and Louis have made before her. So please, the choice is clear, please vote for Kat.
Hi everyone, I'm Katrina and I would love to be Collingwood's next senior prep. From the very first night of my Freshers Week, I knew I wanted to be a prep and made it my mission to go on to open days and prepping. So the next step that I want to take is to be senior prep. So why me? I'm extremely organised, getting summatives and formatives done as soon as they're set. Of course, the senior prep role, time management is vital, and I would get as much work done during the end of term breaks, for open days and for freshers, and during summer for the all-important Freshers Week, of which I have so many big plans for. Being involved in many societies, as well as social media repping, has given me great communication abilities, which I would utilise to represent freshers and interact with people, including anyone from tech all the way to exec. I'm a very creative person with so many ideas about how I want to run Freshers Week that I want to make a reality. When I'm passionate about something, I put my all into it, and I would put so much of my time, energy and effort in to make sure incoming freshers get the best welcome to Collingwood. But Freshers Week, open days and refreshers isn't just about me. Senior prep represents freshers, and I want to hear from them as much as possible. I want to utilise social media in order to do this. For example, a survey asking this year's freshers' feedback so I can use their feedback for improvements and keep successful things going. In terms of my ideas, my theme for Freshers Week is Journey Through the Ages. We finally have new spaces in college that I would utilise: open mics in the theatre, sports on the prom, and box in the JCR. And in addition to the big Newcastle night out, I'd like to have more activities in college by speaking to sports and societies presidents to see if they could put on activities, for example zorbing. In terms of reps, I think it's important to maintain the day leader handover and prep gathering before summer, as it was a really successful way to build a foundation of a tight prep community. I honestly can't explain how much I want this role and how happy I would be to fulfill it. So I hope you'll all consider me to be your new senior prep. Please do ask me any questions, and I hope you'll take the time to vote for me.
So now we have Finn and his proposer, Katie.
So I met Finn in Freshers Week and he put an absolute shift in. He's so hardworking, always willing to give a hand, learn something new. We did bunting together. He's so organised. Also, I pushed him around a tech thing. He first time day leading, but he'll be in a good. He did day leading. He'll be in a great position like organisation, budgets, etc. Did a cracking job on the Saturday, probably the best closing ceremony we've ever had. He loves college, just a generally nice person, gets involved with everything, and he would be a fantastic senior prep.
Hi, thanks Kate for that wonderful introduction. I'm Finn, I prep this year as a day leader, as has been mentioned. And that meant I was involved in planning and preparation of the Saturday of Freshers Week. It's given me insight into the organisation that goes on behind Freshers Week, and plenty of experience of leading the prep team as well. Organisation is absolutely key, is something that I've learned from having seen the work that's gone in over summer. I've got experience of organisation as a club treasurer and a stash officer for various Collingwood sports clubs, or two. Something that's not a manifesto that I've been asked about a lot is a Freshers Week theme. It's not that I don't have a theme, I actually have several different ideas. I think at this stage it's premature to be able to say with confidence that any one idea is the best one. I'll probably develop them a bit more and see where it goes. Some of the things that are on my manifesto, so there's the review of the paint party, there's been an awful lot of feedback that I've heard since Freshers Week that the paint party doesn't work for certain people. So it's just looking at how it can be tweaked to make it run a bit more efficiently and make it work for everyone. There's also the thing about varied workload for preps. That's just making sure that people don't end up doing the same job repetitively or end up being overworked, and making sure people have the time to recover as well. Finally, representing the interests of freshers is something that comes with the role. something this year that I think would be really important is potentially getting involved with the work that Laura and Chris are doing on the SU's Ripped Off campaign. It's something I feel quite strongly about. It's a big injustice for all of the people living in college this year, the majority of whom are freshers. So I'll definitely try and get involved with that as well. Other than that, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you land your support in the election.
So this is a contested election. So the way it will start is that Kat will ask questions of Finn, then Finn back, and then we'll open it up to the floor. So, do you have any questions for Finn?
So you mentioned that if you were to move the paint party to another day, that you would find a suitable replacement activity. What kind of activity were you thinking that would still maintain the excitement of the first opening night?
That's a good question. So people have suggested things like foam parties and stuff, but they don't tend to work particularly well because it can be a bit of a hazard. The paint party really does have, it's quite unique in that sense. There's not a lot of similar activities, but it's not necessarily the case that you have to have the paint party on the first night. You still have a big paint party vibe even for a different night. I wouldn't necessarily move it. I think it's quite good having it on the first night, but it's just an option that I was mentioning. You mentioned on your manifesto that you're really creative, and I couldn't agree more. You are one of the most talented artists I've ever met, Kat. How do you think that being creative qualifies you to be a leader?
So in terms of being a leader, so I know that the senior prep offers a lot of support and help to the day leaders, and if they're struggling, they'll often go to them and ask, will this thing work, will that thing work? And I think that having creative abilities will really help in being able to say, oh yes, this will work, maybe something else. Also for Thursday day team, like when Will and Lucia were messaging our group chat being like, does anyone have any suggestions for things? I put in some suggestions, and then they were like, oh, this might not work, and then I was like, but last year they did it in the marquee. And then, so it's just kind of like back and forth, like using creativity to aid me in order to help them. So you mentioned that you have an A&E standby rota. In practicality, how do you think this would work when the well-being of the prep, say a welfare prep was on the rota, and they went up to going on an A&E trip, or the fresher wanted someone else to go with them, how do you think that the standby rota would work, and if,
I think in practice this would be something that would be completely flexible. It's just to have an idea of someone that you can go to if you like just off the top of your head need to send someone to A&E, like this is the default person, but absolutely you could. It would just depend on circumstances, definitely.
That's exciting.
So you mentioned that you love college as a reason for being a senior prep, but I think all of us love college, and people who have prepped already. So do you think that is a specific reason that's specific to you, or does that apply to like anyone that would want to be a senior prep?
I think hopefully anyone who runs for senior prep would love college, but I just think that ever since last year, I'm so passionate about college, and last year I was too afraid to get involved in stuff, so this year I really am trying to get involved and do things, but I don't mean to say oh, I love college more than someone else, because that's just not measurable.
Okay, so we'll open it up to the floor. So we'll go direct questions first to Katrina. So it has to relate to either their manifesto, their Husts, their answers already, or what the standing orders say that their role is. So any questions for Katrina? Will?
So you said on your manifesto with your theme throughout the year, you were going to have a space, futuristic space theme South Road. Do you not think it's excessive to have 2 space themed Saturdays in a row, 3 space themed Saturdays in a row? It's just 4 space themed Saturdays in a row.
So I knew about this, but incoming freshers don't know about like the previous years. The only people that know about it are the Freps. And Freshers Week isn't just about Freps, it's more for the freshers, therefore I don't think it's that big of an issue, although I am open to other suggestions, like it's not completely written off.
Direct questions for Finn. Tamsin.
You said you hadn't settled on a female, pretty fair. You said you had some ideas, and you throw some of those ideas.
So by coincidence, one of the first ideas I had was the same one as Kat. Probably not surprising. Oh, yeah, I know.
Simmer down.
It has happened before. It's not an original idea from anyone's point of view because it's happened before in Freshers Week. It's a good idea in that sense because it works as a theme. It's been tried and tested. The idea is, I had some suggestions for ideas. Someone suggested doing iconic locations around Durham or the northeast, which I think is pretty good. Another idea I thought was a week of colour, different colours every day. So, you know, just working on any of those.
Direct questions for Kat. Katrina. Jess.
Part of your role would be organising with Freshers Week, which last year in particular didn't have the greatest engagement. I know you mentioned it in your manifesto. How would you make sure that people do actually take part, and would you include more returners in it to try and up the hype of it?
Yeah, I think including returners is a possibility. Like, I'm not closed off to it. I think, like I said, like I really want to utilise social media, so like Instagram, create a Facebook page, use the Facebook page, create polls, send emails out, like really just engage over social media, because this year's freshers, like when I was social media repping, I was very active on social media, and I think that's the way to approach them, and hopefully they'll get involved. They were very involved during Freshers Week, so I don't see why they wouldn't be during Refreshers.
Direct for Finn. James.
A lot of your manifesto points seem to mention things that are quite specific to kind of looking at what would be beneficial for FREPs, which I think is very important, because as a senior FREP you would be, you're leading a team of 50 plus people, so you are effectively a boss. But I was just wondering, what kind of things would you specifically do to make sure that you keep FREP morale up, particularly morale is a particular area, because obviously everyone's buzzing, we're all enjoying it, all the FREPs under you, if hypothetically speaking. But the week gets very tiring, and sometimes you're asked to do tasks that may seem quite menial, very repetitive. How would you in particular look at just morale as one key area, making sure that was raised all the time so that we can all dance like, I don't know, like we've got ADHD and are on speed, for example, like all the time.
So I think having a varied set of jobs to do is important. I think like repeating the same task again and again can get a bit boring, so that sort of thing. Also, in terms of the morale of the FREP group, the team building activities and the games that get played a lot, they go a long way, I think, to helping the team kind of re-energise in the mornings and evenings. So more of that, really.
So I forgot earlier, but so even though the question's been asked to Finn, Kat is entitled to comment on it, and vice versa.
So a lot of like how to keep morale high is to do with the FREP's energy levels and how much rest they get. So something that I really want to like carry on if I were to get a senior FREP is to keep the 30 crash rooms available. So it's not that there has to be like one individual living there. Like if we have enough cars, then we can do a car rota, but just to have the rooms available, because I know in previous years that people have gone for a nap and at the half an hour point have been like knocked on and told to like go back, or like they've been refused naps because they're all full. So in order to keep morale up and so that the welfare of the FREPs is looked after, I think more crash rooms available is a way to solve that.
Any more direct questions to Katrina? Any direct questions to Finn? Laura?
You mentioned in your post about working with Chris and I with regards to like the Ripped Off campaign. How do you think we should go about that?
I was thinking from like, 'cause as far as I can tell, we're not a particularly political college as a student body, so it's getting people engaged really, particularly from livers in and freshers, and just making them firstly aware that the campaign's going on, and then trying to get people involved. But yeah, there's just various like communications, Facebook posts, that kind of thing. But
Okay, so now we go to general questions. So these questions will be asked to both candidates. Jasmine Buckley,
Hello.
current senior threat.
Being senior threat can be, what some would say, a tiring role. It can be very hard to not do everything and like not get committed to that. But obviously you do want to help out as much as you can. So how would you both find that balance and make sure you look after yourselves?
I'm very good at knowing when I need to be off and when I can be on. I'm very good at knowing myself and like my capabilities as like a person. So I think like I will know if I'm pushing myself too hard, and I will take breaks when I need to. In terms of like trying not to do everything, like delegation's key for this role. Delegate to as many people as possible. Obviously not everything. But yeah, delegation and just taking breaks when I can and knowing when to take breaks.
yeah, so being able to send myself to bed on times when I'm not needed is there's definitely something that I'd have to be consciously focused on. I think my kind of natural position is to be as involved as I can in everything, which for senior threat is just completely unrealistic. Like, you have to be able to delegate, and you have to be able to trust people to kind of carry out your vision when you're not there. So yeah, napping and early nights when possible, and just as much sleep as you physically can, really.
Any other general questions? Anna.
So, a lot of reps get really quite tired during the week. Tensions can run high, and there might be disputes between the reps, where they're sort of like low-key or like outward arguments. I know that the enforcers have a role in dealing with that, but how would you guys look to keep morale and keep relationships good in the threat team itself?
I think that like having a general, like keeping like morale high in general will hopefully prevent arguments from happening. But if they do happen, like I can be very firm when I need to be. Like if anything happens, like I can deal with situations like that. And in terms of like if there are disputes, like simple things like separating, like keeping them away from each other if needed. Like there's 53 reps, they don't need to run into each other like every day, but hopefully it doesn't come to that. But that's just like a last resort.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people ever having disputes, you try as much as you can to build a cohesive team, like one big group at the start, by doing as much of the kind of team building activities and stuff before people get to the point where they're tired and exhausted and just hungry. That's when I get angry. If there were disputes to happen, it would really be quite circumstantial as to what action I'd take. Whether it's kind of sort of being more forceful and saying, no, just sort yourselves out, like this is ridiculous, or whether it's like gently taking people aside for a conversation, having a chat. But yeah, just addressing things as they arise.
Louis?
Hi. So, the senior threat role is often thought of as being kind of punctuated by three main events: refreshers, open days, freshers week. But in the standing orders, it also says that you need to represent the interests of first-year students. What does that mean to you, and how would you try to carry that out?
So I did mention earlier the ripped off campaign and their interest in respect to tuition fees, but I think, no, accommodation fees. But I think really it's very difficult to know as someone that lives out in second year. I was only a freshman last year, but still it's difficult to know what the interests of freshers actually are. without asking them. So the first thing would be finding out sort of like a survey or chats or having like an informal meeting or something like that. And then actually acting on those, taking things to exec and then beyond as and when things come up.
I'd utilise social media, so a page where they can just message, Instagram. Yeah, the Wood Freshers account is they're not used all year round, but they could be. And then also informal drop-ins where freshers can just come up to you and say their ideas, opinions, things that they have on their mind.
Brody?
As senior getting exposed to more welfare situations than a regular prep might be, how would you approach and manage these situations?
I think in the same way as any other FREP would, just following the same welfare training. There might be a few more situations that you have to deal with, but you shouldn't have to deal with them any differently. The exact same way.
Yeah, similar answer. If I'm in a position where I'm being called left, right and centre and there is a welfare situation going on, maybe I'll delegate to one of the welfare team. But yeah, the welfare training that we've had in the past will be used.
Q.
Do you see any good in involving returners who aren't prepped before the Thursday nights? They don't see us for the first time when we're completely drunk and quite intimidated.
I'd consider it, but at the same time, freshers are coming in and they're really overwhelmed, and it can be really overwhelming if there are second years around. They don't know who's a fresher and who's not. I think if I was a fresher and there was second years walking around on the first, second, maybe even third day, I'd be very overwhelmed. So I don't see it happening, but I get where you're coming from.
I think this is something that maybe livers out and returners might enjoy or might find beneficial. I don't think it'd be particularly beneficial to freshers. I think it would kind of complicate things. They're still meeting people for the first time 3-4 days into Freshers Week. And yeah, as Kat said, telling the difference between returners and freshers it would confuse things. But I can see the merit in having certain people back. Say we're running certain activities or sports things or something, and you have the relevant returners who are related to that club or event or activity. But generally on a large scale, I don't think so.
Any final questions? Will?
So the technical preps often work really active social hours, and as a result, end up missing quite a lot of the roles during the week which other preps may do. With that in mind, how would you ensure that they're also still considered a part of the prep team and relationships between that and other preps are still maintained?
Firstly, I'd try as much as possible to limit the amount of time tech preps end up working kind of ridiculously late into the night. I think with the new spaces now, there's probably more that we can do in advance, although there's a lot more to do in that sense, so it's just that balance. And actually integrating people with the team, I think definitely getting everyone to meetings and making sure that they are being rotated onto the kind of usual activities as well, and making sure that other freps who aren't tech freps are occasionally rotated on to help tech freps, so that it's not just tech freps doing normal things, but it's normal freps doing tech things occasionally as well. So as kind of two groups, we're completely understanding each other, and we're one team doing the same thing.
I think communication is key. Checking up on tech managers, see how they are, and then also making sure that people on the FREP team are helping out as well, because obviously there's not that many tech allocated FREPs, and then only a few just allocated to tech. So I think if everyone helps out, then it will benefit tech.
One final question if we have any. Emma.
So obviously, as well as the undergraduate freshers, we also get postgraduate freshers in each year. They are sort of 4 or 5 days before. This year, not many of them thought freshers packed to participate in the JCR Freshers Meet.
I think what Jess did this year was really successful, so I think it's just about liaising with the MCR president in order to come up with a idea of how to get them more involved. But yeah, working with MCR president, working with the MCR Freshers page, just getting more involvement that way.
Yeah, I agree. Jess's work this year has been possibly some of the best work we've had with the MCR during the Freshers Week and the best engagement with college for mature students. I think it's a matter of working with whoever has that role next year and kind of other relevant people to make sure that the communication with the MCR continues to improve and get better and expand, and we start to build like a consistent thing that we do each year with the MCR and make it like a part of what we do as a FREP team.
Thank you. Well done.